Okay, the meeting is now recording, so I begin by taking the suderian for the Clydesdale Area Committee on Tuesday the 23rd of March 2021. Alec Allison?
Here.
Poppy Corbett?
Here.
George Greenshields?
Here.
Lindsay Hamilton?
Here.
Eric Holford? No. Mark Horsham?
Here.
Richard Lockhart?
Yep.
Eileen Logan?
Yes.
I have apologies from Ian McCallan. Catherine McClyman?
Yeah, here.
Colin McGavigan?
Here.
Julia Mars?
Here.
And I have apologies from David Shearer. Officers in attendance today are Lynn Wiley and myself, Carol Lyon from Admin Services. I'll hand back to yourself, Chair.
Thank you. Right. The first thing is I'd just like to say, I don't know who can do it. Lindsay, pass on my my sympathies to David, will you? I gather his mother died today or something, which is very sad.
Well, no bother.
We all agree that we will, pass on our sympathies for that. Okay. Move on then to the declaration of interests. I know there's one declaration of interest. Do you want to admit to it yourself, or do I tell you?
It's fine. I'd like to declare an interest on item 3.2.1b. So the second of the community grants for Lanark Tennis Club.
Fine, thank you. Right, well, then we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Has anybody got anything on that which they want to talk about or raise? No. Okay. Now, where do we go now? Then
sorry, Chair, can you hear me? I did raise my hand there.
Oh, I couldn't see that. Sorry about that. Yes, far away.
Now, I don't know if you want it to be raised now or when we come to the community grants, but I was reading this and it is my understanding that we discussed at that particular time money that had to be left over, and that inquiries would be made whether we could ask for the money, the surplus cash, to be rolled over into this financial year that's coming, and that we, not just us, but the council would actually try and sort of publicise and get out into the wider public to find out, more groups, etc. Because all the clubs are looking now to be starting back up. I was talking to two people from bowling clubs, and they're quite cautiously happy that they might be able to get started. I'm not saying they'll need a grant, but there's various different ones who, if they do get started up, might find themselves needing grants. So I didn't see it in the papers. I might have missed it, but I wondered if I could have an update on that, either here or when we do the grants. It doesn't matter.
Eileen, thank you for that. Yes, I mean, I did send out a note, I'm pretty sure, to everybody to briefly just explaining what had happened. Did everyone else get that note? You did, I think so. I tell you what it was. To put it simply, the answer was no. The problem is they have no mechanism or means of, if you like, retaining money from the current year. There are lots of other reasons, but it's fairly simple. They can't retain the money. There is no fund available, and all of the money that is left over, not only from this area, but the other areas, will go back to a central pot, and therefore we will lose it, and we have no means of applying for it. There will be possibly a couple of grants, as you know, which are a hangover, if you like, in this quarter. There may be one or two which we won't vote on, which I will agree when they come in. But beyond that, I've been assured that just because we haven't used that money doesn't mean we're not going to get the same amount next year, i.e. it's not a use it or lose it situation. We will get that money again, but there will be no carry forward.
Thank you. It's just we get so much stuff in. I've maybe looked at it and forgot. I didn't see it minuted or put anywhere in this paper, because I think it's important that people do know that at least we tried.
Yeah, well, we can certainly minute the fact that we tried, but if you want, I will find and resend you the note that I did send round to everybody.
Yeah, but I think it's important though that local people do know that, you know, at least we had their interests at heart and we did try.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point, and I will. Well, Carol, you'll minute that anyway.
Yes, I'll minute that, Chair.
Okay.
Sorry,
well, then
Chair, just to advise that Councillor Holford has now joined us.
Okay, fine. We now move on to the.
Yeah, I've got my hand up, Richard.
I can't see. Why is my system not working? Okay, I see it now. Yeah.
Actually, going to suggest, why don't we all go back to our own group leaders, and it can be taken up at the leaders with Cleland, because I'm quite sure that funding going forward, as you call it, into the central pot reserves, can then be reallocated, because it won't be funding that we've already accounted for. And if we can get all the groups agreeing that that would be a good use, that money is recycled back into the area committees to help organisations get started again after COVID. It can. I don't see why it shouldn't be able to happen.
That's a good idea. Well, I mean, we leave that with you. You're one of the leaders, and presumably the other parties can pick that up as well.
Oh.
Eileen, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I would like that minuted, because I was just sitting there thinking before Alec came in. I mean, at the end of the day, the past 2 or 3 months, housing, all the various social work, various people have said, because of the pandemic, or whatever you would like, whatever word we use, such and such a project has been slowed down, but don't worry about that, because we will take the money and we'll slide it along and it'll get caught up and a nursery will be built or whatever it happens to be. So there is mechanisms within the council somewhere, and I agree with what Alec just said, but I think we need to go further and say we want that minuted, that this is what we're going to do, and not just leave it sort of open-ended that, well, Alec happens to be a leader, that's great, and we would have to go to whoever and wherever. And I think it might be another way as well, as that, unfortunately, you're the chair, so you would need to maybe do it, but a letter from this committee, as well as what Alec just said, saying that, yeah, we got your note, we understand what you're saying, but this is what we think, and also get it sent to our group, you know, our various group leaders, because I think it is important, and I think as we're tailing off now with people maybe needing, say, food parcels or different stuff, then it is. I was talking to older people who were telling me they don't think their club will get started back up again, because some of them have lost the will and various things. But there might be things that we could put into there to help them, say, get it advertised, get it, you know, out in the public, various different stuff. So I think as one part of COVID finishes, i.e. the absolute desperate need that you had to start straight away to help people, this should be in like a small part of a recovery plan for, you know, to help locals to get their wee clubs up and started. So that's my view, that, yep, I agree with what Alex said, but I think also it should be minuted, and maybe collectively we should, as a committee, through you as the chair, and maybe, I don't even know who's the vice chair, but it doesn't matter, send a letter saying this is what we have said and this is what we minuted, and we'll also take it up with our leaders.
Yep, I think I agree with you there. I think, Carol, what we'll do, we'll just work out some wording from that, okay, that we can send from the committee itself, okay?
Yeah, certainly.
And then Alec will approach from his angle, and then we'll deal with that. I see Julia's got her hand up.
Am I being ignored?
No, I was going to say Eric's ahead of me, I think.
I can't see you. You've got a very funny little, it looks like a duck floating around.
All right.
I don't
Well,
quite.
you skipped me twice. No, all I was going to say was I was actually trying to do something very similar with the micro grants at the community council level, because a lot of those are not spent this year because they, nothing was happening. But again, this money should, in my view, be rolled over to next year. But I was told unequivocally, no, it ain't going to happen. Micro grants were reviewed in February. So it may not be quite the purview of this committee, but I would like to see those grants rolled over as well. And if you're asking for one, it would be as well to ask for both. This is not council money. It doesn't affect the council funds particularly, but these little injections into the community could be a really good way to help people get started back up after COVID. So I agree. Thank you.
Okay, Julia was next.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm wondering when the last time the rules and the criteria for community grants were actually looked at, because that we often make decisions on very little information, and it's sometimes hard to see the community benefit. I'm sure there is a community benefit. It's very hard to make a judgment on that and the information that we have in front of us, to be able to make a good judgment, and also the ability of those groups to have other funding sources. And I know we're only talking about small amounts of money, but I also I'd be interested to know if it's time for a review and the way that we give out that funding, and actually looking at community benefit, rather than the really one line that we're dealing with at this committee.
It's interesting. Thank you for that. I actually asked Carol, I haven't sent it round, but I will do, to look at this. Now, the fact is that I think, Carol, you said they were last looked at 5 years ago?
They were last looked at, I'm thinking something like 2014. They should have been reviewed, and the information circulated to councillors at the beginning of the current council term. For whatever reason, that hasn't happened. And as we know, the officer who was in charge of grants has now retired. But it is something that admin services is currently looking at, is the current criteria for the community grants.
Well, I've got a document here which Carol has just sent to me. I will circulate it to everybody, which gives you a resume of where we are right at this moment, and you can have a look at that and come back. This sets the levels of the various grants and so on and so forth. And I'll send that round, and we can pick up on that the next time. But I think the main point we take out of all this is that these grants are out of date, and that we would like to obviously see if we can do something about carrying this money forward. I mean, that's the main basis of what we've been talking about. And I will put that together in a note. I'll circulate it around everybody, and if you're all happy, we'll then send our version from us, if you like, as well. As to the change or whatever it is in the levels of grants, I don't quite know where that fits. Maybe Alex can enlighten us how that would come forward and where that would be discussed first. Carol, Carol, you know the document you sent to me and Mark. Yeah. Could you forward it to everybody?
Yes.
I think, Chair, that this would be a question for Corporate and Finance Committee, off the top of my head. Would that not be right, Carol, where the funding?
Yeah, I'm thinking the funding, the overall budget, obviously for community grants, will be agreed probably through council, to be fair, Councillor Allison, to do with savings, etc. If there's anything on that.
Savings are just where we're making changes. If we're not in,
yeah, but actual budgets are obviously agreed.
I think this will come out the corporate finance budget.
Yeah. It will. The community grants will sit under finance and corporate budget somewhere along the line, as I say. And obviously, when we look at the criteria for the grants, it's obviously not just for Clydesdale; it's for the other 3 areas as well. Because obviously we need to keep the 4 areas the same. But there is obviously, we have discussed it ourselves within admin services, and we do realise that there is a need for the criteria to be reviewed and updated, and it is something that is being looked at just now.
Okay, Mark, you had your hand up next, I think, and then Eileen, is yours a legacy hand, or do you want to speak again after Mark?
No, I completely agree with everything that's been said. And what you've got to remember is when clubs and other organisations are starting up, they're going to need other provisions in place due to, you know, COVID, you know, whether it's hand sanitizer, things like that, you know, to get them started up. They might need more equipment, so they can have to clean one set of equipment before the next group uses it and everything like that. And, you know, our grant says you can apply up to £1,000, but I've never been on anything that has got that money. So I think everything has to be reviewed and money getting carried forward. So I agree with everything that's being said here. And another thing, I'm just going to introduce myself to Eileen. I'm the deputy chair, sorry.
Yeah. Have you finished?
Yeah.
Right, Eileen,
all I wanted to say, Chair, was that as long as we keep in mind that a lot of clubs, we've got all these different threads running through the council. The community will do this, the community will do that, the community will take a brush and sweep the streets, and there's all sorts of things, and there's all sorts of money coming from here, there, because I know in my town it's silly money that's getting talked about coming for the Scottish Government to some of these groups. But as long as we keep in mind that a wee group who needs new teapot, some cups, some stuff, whatever they need, is just as important as somebody who's doing a huge, big project. And that's how this got started, was if it was a wee bowling club and they needed new mats and they didn't have, you know, a wee indoor club and they didn't have the money, you know, or they had half the money and needed the other half to get topped up, then that's fine. And I think today we shouldn't get entangled or as we tend to do, bogged down with what might come through something else that's getting reviewed. All I think is that this year coming might in particular be one where a lot of people might need, as our deputy chair just said, you know, even some of them were talking about they might need to put up plastic, you know, these plastic shields between the tables if people are coming in to play dominoes, that type of thing. And that's all I'm asking, is that this year the rest can follow on and we can discuss, you know, reviews or discuss whatever we like. But as long as we keep in our head that £250 to somebody is as much as 7,000 to somebody else. And that's all I'm asking, is that we take consideration that this year in particular coming might require just a gentle help for people. And the other one about the micro grants, ours in Carluke were spent absolutely no bother, but if there is other areas, then I don't see any problem with that. But as long as we keep in our mind and we don't get bogged down and do nothing because we're that busy thinking about 10 miles up a road, that, as I say, £250 to somebody. If I get £350 for my brownies, I'm over the moon because I can buy all my equipment, or not all my equipment, but a lot of equipment and different stuff. And there's two different issues running parallel with each other, but it's essential that we do try and get this money to see if we can help people.
Yeah, fine. Okay, right. Well, Mark, is there a legacy hand, or have you got a question again?
Sorry, Chair, legacy hand.
Right. Are we okay then to move on then to the community grant applications? There are only two, so I suggest what we do is we deal with the first one, and then Julia, you can absent yourself for the second one. Okay. You all right with that, everybody? Right, fine. Okay, well, the first one is Colburn Homing Club. Apparently, homing pigeons are a sport. So this has been £500 requested with £300 granted. Are we all agreeable to that one?
Agreed.
Agreed. Good. Thank you. And I propose. I'll propose that, and then Mark, I leave it to you.
I'll second it, Chair.
Good. Okay, Julia, do you want to absent yourself now?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Will we see
time,
you?
folks.
Will we see you again, or can
Well,
Julia just be excused after this?
It's entirely up to yourself, Chair. We can invite her back in so that she knows the outcome if you wish.
You can. I'm delighted to have you back if you want.
okay, that's fine. Just invite me back then. Okay.
Okay.
See you
Fine.
soon.
Well, we'll wait till you've gone. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Well, the second one then is the Lanark Tennis Club. It looks a bit different, but it does follow the rules exactly as to what is allowed for equipment. And they've asked for £1,000 and they've been granted £300. Now, I know before, I think they've applied and they've been granted more, but having looked carefully at the rules with Carol, there is no question that £300 is the right amount. So we need to discuss that or not.
I would agree. I agree.
You agree. Has everyone got anything against that idea? No? Right. In
Agreed.
which case, I propose that we grant them £300.
Second it, Chair.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
after
I'll just
that,
invite Councillor Marsh back in.
would you
Chair?
invite her back in, please? Yeah.
Okay, I think that's her now back with us.
Okay, just to scroll on through, just as a reminder, it's what we've been talking about anyway. If you go to section 5, effectively, you can see the financial picture, just so long as you all note that. And that's what we will be, Carol and I will put together a note, if you like, on the basis of what is left, which seems to be £11,500 nearly. And we will put forward the proposals which we've discussed. Beyond that, I think we have reached the end, unless there are any other items of urgent business which we have to deal with. Anybody got any urgent business?
Councillor Holbrook has his hand up.
Hands up and I'm waving too. No, all I was going to say is, if you're going to write that letter, is there any possibility that you could include in there a note that it would be quite nice to see microgrants rolled over as well, or is that? I mean, it's not strictly in the, in the purview of this committee, but
no, well, that's the
it
problem.
falls on the
It's
same
not.
pattern.
Okay,
Yeah,
but it's not in the committee's gift, I don't think, microgrants.
Well,
I
no,
don't
it's
think
not.
it's in the committee's gift either. Microgrants don't sit within the remit of the area committee at the moment.
I thought, Alex, maybe you can bring it in what you say.
Yeah, can I just not ask? I'm not set. It's a slightly different system there. I think that if you spend the microgrant, you can then ask for more. So it is a different situation. This is money that is being lost. There's not actually any money being lost with microgrants because they get topped up, and if they spend it all, I think they can ask for more, but that would need to go direct to financing. No, community and enterprise.
Community and enterprise, Pauline Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
No, they can't. They can ask for the following years to be brought forward, but then they lose it from the following year. I realise it's not something that we allocate. I just wonder whether we could ask as a committee for that to happen, because it affects the people that we're there. I asked for it, and I was told that because the microgrant system was agreed to be extended, because it was done for a 2-year trial period for most of the community councils in February. It was agreed in February, therefore it won't be reviewed again for the foreseeable. And that seems to me an unfortunate position, because it's exactly the same as the position we're in here. I'm sure some community councils will have got their money out the door, but a lot of them haven't. And it would be lovely to see that money rolled over. At the moment, if they overspend, they can effectively bring forward the following years, but that's all. They don't get back the previous years. So carry back rather than carry forward.
Okay, right, that's fine. And I think Catherine's got her hand up.
Yeah, it was just to say I've nothing against what Eric's suggesting, but it's not in the remit of the area committee, so we would just muddy it by asking for something that we know is out with our control, not with our remit, to be honest.
Somebody has to ask, and I've tried, and it didn't get me anywhere.
Well, I don't have a view on that. I mean, I'm just suggesting that if Alex picked it up in the leaders' meeting,
Yeah.
it maybe get more chance of being heard. Eileen, you had.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Catherine. I think we should stick to what we can stick to, and that is the area, area grants. I don't have any bother with what Councillor Halford has just said. So therefore, and I think though, like when we approach our leader to say we've done this, we could also say, would he include in their discussions the micro grants, and because the micro grants, as I understand, are always sort of if the budget allows, they go forward kind of thing. And I think Catherine's right. We're always in the habit we sort of make everything more complicated than maybe we should. So I think that we should deal with that, the first lot of business, to see if we can, get that rolled forward, and through the leaders' meeting, look at the micro grants, of which Margaret Cooper is one of the leaders. And she was sort of, I think it came from the area. Did it not come from the rural area thing?
The rural task force.
Yes, that she runs. So there, you've got a good champion there to start with. But I don't think we should muddy what we're doing. And I would second what Catherine's saying. Stick to what we have.
Item of urgent business for the rural forum tomorrow then.
Yeah. Okay, are we all agreed that that's the way we will go forward then? We will stick with what we can do, stick with your knitting, as it were, and we will let Alex take it forward with the leaders' meeting. Is that all right with you, Eric?
It's a democracy. And no greater tyranny than the mob of democracy, so I will bend to your will. Thank you.
Democracy in action. Right.
Sorry,
well,
Chair,
is there any other business?
There is a rural task force tomorrow, so I don't know if it can be raised there. I think you're on it, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what I said. It's an item of urgent business for tomorrow's rural task force meeting.
Sorry, I was distracted by your background.
We can ask. We can ask.
Hang on, a hand's gone up again. Catherine, what have you got?
Again, I don't think it's in the remit of the rural task force either, to be honest. But anyway, you can try, Alec.
It's community and enterprise.
If the chair is more accommodating than this chair, who took an urgent item of urgent business, which probably if I had been the chair, you'd have got flung out the door. But anyway, you're a nice person, Richard. Know me.
I took it because I'm a charitable, generous, and
yes,
kind.
you are. You're a better person than me.
Okay, well there we go. Are we all okay? We've reached, I think, the end of the trail there. If there is anything more in the way of urgent business, speak now or forever hold your peace. Anyone? No? Okay, in which case, thank you all very much for coming. Not quite the shortest meeting in the world, but certainly a lot shorter than the one before. So I will now leave Carol just to conduct the closing ceremony and stop the recording.